Welcome to the Ballet Help Desk podcast. My name is Jenny, and I am joined by my co-founder, Brett. We are both proud ballet moms who met backstage at our children's recital. During our kids' training, we found that resources were limited, and we relied on dance magazines and fellow parents in the lobby for information. Now that our children are embarking on their professional careers, we are excited to share our combined 20 years of experience as ballet moms with all of you. We will be bringing in experts to help make sense of this complex world of ballet training. We have temporarily paused our competition series in order to celebrate National Sons Day. During this time, we had the pleasure of speaking with Peter Stark about men's training. Peter provided a wealth of valuable information and was just a delight to speak with. Please forgive any audio issues as my microphone was not functioning properly and my voice may sound quite tinny. Fortunately, I did not speak too much during this episode. We hope you enjoy listening to Peter Stark.
Hi, Peter. Thanks so much for joining us today. We are here with Peter Stark, who is the president and director of the Rock School for Dance Education. Thanks so much for being with us today.
My pleasure.
Boys in ballet.
Let's do it.
Terrific. I have a son who started doing serious ballet when he was 10. And he's always been the only one, like at his local studio. And as we all know with boys, there are a lot of hurdles when they're younger to try to keep them in it. And we recently posted an article about some of the challenges that boys face, and it seemed to really strike a nerve with a lot of parents. And that's why we wanted to talk to you, because I can identify the problems. And, Doug Reisner's talked about it. Other people in the industry have talked about it. But there's a lot that's been written about what's wrong with it and the problems that exist. But not a whole lot of solutions have been put forward other than, this is a really intractable problem. If you could wave a magic wand, what are some of the things you would suggest that happen in order to attract more and retain more boys in ballet?
Well, I have a lot of thoughts on this. I would also say that, as we know, there are different kinds of schools across the world, and particularly now in America. And what is really interesting and dynamic is that there has been a democratization of ballet schools across America. So you have really excellent students coming from very small schools, as well as very large schools. Mm-hmm. When I was training, interestingly, there was no JKO at ABT. Right. So every boy with any kind of serious desire ended up at the School of American Ballet. And I will tell you that when I graduated from the School of American Ballet, 14 dancers that same year, and I joined New York City Ballet, 14 others joined American Ballet Theater. So I think 12 went to New York City Ballet and 14 went to ABT. But you saw there weren't so many schools, particularly serving, serious high-level boys. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a lot of different options. And some of it is understanding your child and the way your child best learns. We've also learned a lot, I think, in education in the last several decades, but I think dance educators are starting to understand that they are educators first and dance teachers second. And some kids learn better one-to-one, some kids learn better in a big environment. There's a lot of paths to the top of the mountain. So I don't advocate for one way of doing things. Mm-hmm. The way I do things is I make a separate program for boys. I believe that boys do need to be in a separate class from girls. I am a pluralist. I am embracing breaking the gender norms. However, the way a soprano needs to train a certain way and a bass baritone needs to train a certain way. In the 400-year history of our art form, there are elements that are required for a traditionally male-identifying individual, and there are other elements that are identified for traditionally female. You are seeing people like Ashton Edwards bridge that gap, which is absolutely remarkable, but it's too much, in my opinion, to try to train everybody to do everything. Okay. So number one, I separate from the very beginning what the boys do versus what the girls do. Male identifying, female identifying. I mean, if people want to participate in the other, that's fine. And I think that creates an energy and a focus and an excitement. In my experience, even with children, I think men and women are equal. Hopefully we'll be paid equally one day, right, ladies? But we're different, and we certainly learn different. And we process different. It has been my experience that boys process information when they're very young, physically, touching, hitting, moving, and girls can intellectualize at a sooner stage. I think it all equals out. I just think when you're growing, it's different. Putting boys together, I think they learn better, in my opinion. So that's one thing, I think a big thing. And I think that the big challenge for a smaller school is to say, well, I only have two.
Right.
So it becomes four and four becomes six if you dedicate the space and the time and the money to those classes. Secondarily, and stop me at any time because I can keep talking about this forever.
No, this is great.
Secondarily, I do feel like at least to get boys in the room, you have to recruit them one by one. Many, many boys across America will tell you, why did you start ballet? Well, my sister was taking dance and I was in the hallway dancing, or the dance teacher came and got me and said, why don't you come join the class? Or I had the Nutcracker and then I wanted to do it, or something like that. They do need to be recruited. I think you need to make a contact with the parents, if possible, a contact with a kid. And then you need to have a program for them. And then lastly, you have to invest with scholarships. Now, this brings up a whole nother thing, and I don't want to get too sidetracked, but with some of the misbehaving principal dancers we've had in recent decades, and that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah.
There was a conversation amongst dance educators. Are we creating this problem by giving these boys scholarships, telling them they're wonderful, letting them, do the central part in every recital that came up, for the minute they walked in the room, and then make them principal dancers when they're 21 years old, and expect anything but a sophomoric mentality. So I think we do need to be careful that we don't just throw the world at boys and say, well, you're here, you're in tights, and you have a scholarship, and you're ready to go. That being said, there are more girls taking ballet in America than there are boys, and if you want them, you've got to find them, recruit them, and oftentimes give them some kind of financial incentive.
So with that being said, as a collective for dance educators, what are you guys doing to address that more sophomoric aspect of boys in ballet?
We really try to hold the men and women to the same standards in terms of taking classes. First of all, wearing dress code. I'm a proponent for dress code. There is a movement in our field right now to say that let people express themselves the way they want. I personally feel that dress code is an equalizer because, you don't have somebody, in a Lululemon shirt that costs $75 and somebody else in a Hanes t-shirt from Walmart. Everybody's in the same t-shirt, everybody's in the same tights. I also think as a dance educator, it helps for me to actually see what's going on. I mean, we wear tights for two main reasons. One is it's a fabric that's very flexible, so we can do splits and so forth. And the other is so that we can see what the body is doing. So I'm a proponent of dress code, and I'm a proponent of fulfilling a whole program. And I also think if you do offer a scholarship, there should be caveats. They should work for that scholarship, and there should be an attendance policy. And if those things are broken, there's obviously a code of conduct. This is the hard part. Teachers need to say no. And it's very, very challenging. I have been there myself when you have a very, very talented young man, and there aren't a lot of them, and they misbehave. But you need to give the appropriate reaction to the action, which could include expulsion at times, and many other things, suspension, a variety of other activities. But I think to allow unprofessional or sophomoric behavior only escalates because people get the idea that it's okay, that their talent can overcome a lack of professionalism.
Now, when you're talking about this, are you talking about teenagers or are you talking about younger boys?
Both, actually, because I what I often say to parents when I'm recruiting, in the dance world, we're trying to do between 14 and 18 what the rest of the world does between 18 and 22.
Right.
So in other words, if you want to enter the workforce in any other field, you go to college at 18, you graduate at 22, and you start your career. We're basically trying to get these kids ready around 18. Now, of course, some start later, this and that, it might be 20. But so your high school years are the equivalent to your college. So then then you keep backing it up. So when, like in terms of job prep, Then when you're in elementary school or middle school, the end of elementary, middle school, that's your high school years in terms of your job prep.
Right.
So actually, it comes up pretty quick. And I really feel that I have so many thoughts on everything, but I think the most underestimated teachers in the world are the beginning teachers, because I think before you even learn how to do a tendu, you need to learn how to participate in a classroom effectively and strangely professionally, even for very, very little kids.
Right.
How to raise your hand to ask a question, how to stand in line, how to treat the colleagues in the room appropriately, and how to really focus inward quietly and work. And actually, that's challenging. So first you have to kind of learn how to learn, then you can learn ballet on top of that. So it all does start quite young, I think.
So I want to talk about the younger kids a little bit. One of the things that you read all the time is a very large percentage of young boys' dads don't support them doing dance. What do you say to those parents when you're talking to them about potentially getting their son into ballet?
That's such a tough one. I recently watched an amazing documentary that's making the circuit called Call Me Dancer, about a young Indian gentleman. And they did a feature film that's on Netflix right now called Yay Ballet, about these two boys from India in really challenging circumstances that become dancers. And culturally in India, there's a cultural necessity in your mid to late 20s to take over as the head of the family and to actually take care of your parents. Wouldn't that be lovely in America? And then, this one boy, Manish, who is the focus of the documentary, there are two boys. The other one, Amir, went to Royal Ballet School and is now with Miami City Ballet. His dad really encouraged him to find his passion. Mm-hmm. I see, forget ballet. When you do what you love in life, it does bring success. Mm-hmm. And everybody talks about discipline with ballet, but for me, it actually teaches one how to learn and that there are no shortcuts. There's a great book by Malcolm Gladwell called Outliers that I always recommend for parents to read.
Yeah. He
is the one that talked about the 10,000 hours to become an expert. So with a doctor, a hockey player, a musician, and he uses examples like the Beatles, and he goes across this wide spectrum. The old man curmudgeon in me, the only thing I worry about with the younger generation is this sort of instant gratification, the Instagram or the YouTube or the TikTok, and then, win American Idol, or, the lottery is 650 million right now, which it is, and people dream that something's going to happen fast. The reality, things that come fast, go fast. And what dancers learn is that if you want to do anything well, it's a long and slow and steady process. Optimistically middle-aged. If I'm truly middle-aged, I'm going to be very, very old. It'll be, something on TV. However, I will go with middle-age. And I will tell you that everybody that I trained with in ballet is successful. I don't mean that they're all rich. They're all fulfilled. They're all working hard. And most of them are not in ballet anymore. Mm-hmm. But the people that I did ballet with found passion and success through life because they knew how to pivot and to take the time to learn and to do something well. Mm-hmm. So those are the kinds of things I share with parents to get them to move beyond. Because I don't even think it's like the boy-girl thing or the sissy thing. And I think it's the money thing. I think dads are like, there's not enough money in this. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, look beyond what might happen for your child.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's interesting that you turn it away from the, boys don't dance. That's a girl thing. Are you not hearing that as much as you used to?
Whether I am, or I just think it's ridiculous. I just can't even give that credence. I'm sorry, at this stage. If somebody is that small-minded, well, then they've got bigger problems than what I can convince them of.
Yeah, no, I get it. No, I totally get it. At that point, there's not much you can do. It's a scary statistic, though.
TV, right? And read a book. That would be my
Yeah, exactly. So let's say you've got one boy. There's all these local studios. You talked about the democratization of ballet a little bit. And with that democratization also comes the growth of local studios. So whereas there might have been one or two in an area, now there's 7. and you're a 9-year-old boy and you're the only one in the studio. That can be pretty isolating. So what do you say to those boys in terms of how to make that experience as valuable as they can?
I mean, this is where summer programs are great. Of course, we're in a summer program here, and it's a way of grouping kids. I would say also to those teachers, always try to have two. If you can find even just two boys, there's a little bit of friendly competition, and then they have a friend or a frenemy or whatever it is. But in my experience, it's always been better to have two than one.
Okay.
If possible. I will also say, which is, I'm going to answer your question with a different answer for another question, which is that a lot of my success, I would like to say I'm a wonderful teacher and blah, 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 blah. A lot of my success has been understanding my place as an educator, that any dance teacher, we're not, I care for my students greatly. Several that, have moved on, and I have students that have children of their own I've stayed in touch with, and that's been a real joy for me. But I'm not a parent, and our window of opportunity with them is small. And a kindergarten teacher isn't going to teach you math, and your math teacher or your algebra teacher is not going to teach you physics, right? We all have a moment. And I also think that some of those teachers are going to need to let go, as do I. The Rock School is a big school. We have a big men's program. We don't have a company. So this year, for instance, when I came here a year and a half ago, there was a very talented boy, and he said, I want to go to Houston. I said, give me one more year. I just got here. I'm a men's teacher, blah, blah. He did. He said, I still want to go. I was not done teaching him, but he got a full scholarship to the Paris Opera Ballet School. And I said, go. Why not? Do I have more to offer him? Yes. Would he have had featured opportunities in the Rock Nutcracker and everything else we do? Yes. But should he go to the Paris Opera? Yes. Right. So it's understanding your place. Similarly, some of these boys in small schools at some point are going to have to come to the Rock or some other program where there are other boys, because it's not impossible, but it's difficult to be the only boy in a school and train all the way up. Because some of what they learn from each other, not just the teacher. And then the other thing is, in a lot of these schools, if they have a male teacher, it's one, and they need multiple male teachers. They need more than one male teacher to finish their education, in my opinion.
That's really interesting. Okay. So, and the mark of a good studio is one that will tell you, like my son's home studio sat us down and said he needs to leave. And we were horrified. We didn't, it was around the corner. His teacher used to dance with the Cuban National Ballet. Like, there was no reason for him to go. And they said he's got to leave because he has to be with other boys. And he was 12 at the time, or 13. And to me, that's really the mark of a good studio, that recognizes you're the only boy here. You've got some potential, but you have to go with other boys. But I hadn't thought about the need for multiple male teachers.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting.
Thank you so much to Peter Stark for giving us so much of his valuable time. If you would like to learn more about him or the Rock School, please visit our show notes for more information. If you liked what you heard on this episode, please take a moment to help us spread the word. Leave us a review on your preferred podcast platform, tell a friend, and share on your social media. Also, as your dancers return home from their summer intensives, please head over to theballethelpdesk.com and leave us an anonymous review of the program. Help your fellow dance parents by letting them learn all about the good, the bad, and everything in between. To stay in the loop on all of our latest content, subscribe to our newsletter at ballethelpdesk.com and follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Until next time, have a great day.